Welcome to Monday Morning Moments. I'm Mike Van Hoozer. Today, I wanted to talk to you about the third key to building a championship mindset. We're continuing the series of 5 keys to building a championship mindset in sports, business, and life. And while our focus is going to be on sports, I think you'll be able to apply all of these in other areas of life, whether it be at home or at work or in the community. The first 2 keys that we talked about over the last couple of weeks have been really interesting, and they build up to a very practical application of this third key today. The first key that we talked about was playing from a place of acceptance. Play from a place of acceptance versus for acceptance. And I think a lot of times we can play for acceptance versus from a place of acceptance. And when we play from that place of acceptance, we have a lot more belief and trust in the things that we're going to be able to do. And we're not tying our identity to our performance or to what we do. And I think the second key is really important too. It builds on that. And it's to focus on what you can control. So in that podcast, we talked about focusing on what you can control, your energy, your effort, your attitude, your communication, and not allowing distractions to get in the way of focusing on only those things you can control and allowing that to fuel and provide a foundation for your best performance. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about a third key, and it's one of my favorite keys to building a championship mindset. A lot of times when I'm talking to coaches and teams, they'll want me to talk about this aspect because I think it's a very practical application of how we build a championship mindset and what we do in the heat of a game and in the course of competition to make sure that we're giving our best. And that's be outcome driven and process focused. So that third key to building a championship mindset is to be outcome driven and process focused. What does that mean? Well, we want to make sure that you have that determination around your goals. And so to be driven by that outcome. And it could be a larger goal or a larger outcome like winning the district championship or playing college basketball or whatever that goal might be. But it could be something small. It could be, I've got to make these free throws at the end of a game, and they're pressure free throws, and I want to make my free throws, and that's the outcome that you're driven by. But you can't just constantly focus on, man, I've got to make those, because a lot of times that leads to a desperate state, and it causes us to tense up mentally and tense up physically as well. I see this in a lot of my golfers because we could have an educated discussion about what score is going to win the game or win the day at the end of the day and win that match. But you can't just be thinking about that score throughout the match because that's going to cause you again to tense up, to put more pressure on certain shots as well. And so we want to be outcome driven, but once we've set what the goal is, we've got to be process focused. And that's so important to focus on process oriented things that are going to allow us to achieve the outcome that we want. What does that look like? Well, in that scenario where you've got to make the free throws at the end of a game, being process focused is bending your knees, following through on the shot. If we were to apply this in another aspect of life, say business, and you're meeting with a client and you need to make the sale, well, you can't just be thinking about that the whole time because you're going to be focused on doing unnatural things to try to force that sale to happen. But process-oriented things would be things like communicating the value of what you're offering, connecting with the client, making sure you understand their needs. Those are process-oriented things. And so be outcome driven and process focused. They go together to make sure that we're, driving forwards to the goal and maximizing our potential in that moment, but focusing on the things that are going to help us to accomplish that goal. So being process focused is really important. When I meet with a lot of my coaching clients, they don't have any problem in defining, that outcome that's driving them. But a lot more times they have trouble in identifying what are those process-oriented things and really trusting process-oriented things in the moment to help them get to the outcome that they want. Often when we talk about this with teams, we'll talk about 3 words. And those 3 words are worry, focus, and obsess in a negative light. And we align on that we like focus the best. And the way our minds work a lot of times is we either worry about circumstances or we obsess about outcomes. So in the heat of competition, we're worrying about circumstances. What is the other team doing? What is the crowd doing? If you're playing an outdoor sport, what's the weather like, and worrying about that, or obsessing about the outcome. We've got to win this game, and not from a determined state, because there's a fine line between desperation and determination. But when we get to a desperate state and we, feel that tension in our mind, feel that tension in our body, it's not going to help us to perform at our best. And so that middle piece of focusing on the process to get to the outcomes that we want is so key in competition, and so key with what we want to do and what we need to do. And so this week, I want you to think about, what are those process-oriented things that you need to focus on day by day that will allow you to maximize your potential and achieve your goals? And again, write down your goals, have them, somewhere in a prominent place where you can look at them and be driven by that, and understand maybe that's your why and what you're trying to do and why you want to accomplish that goal. But identify what are those process-oriented things that will help you day by day and moment by moment to be your best and accomplish the goals that you want. Be outcome driven, but also be process focused. And as always, make the most of the moments in your life.